Right. Hello, everyone. I'm Alex Lim, your host, and welcome to AuthorStory, the home of authors and stories that matter. This episode's featured guest is Deryck Richardson, author of Go Play, the ultimate roadmap to winning the game of life. So, Deryck, welcome to AuthorStory. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, you're welcome. So, first off, your background. I mean, you have a very varied background. Like, you worked in a call center way back in the 90s, and you taught high school to kids, and then you got into insurance. Now, this might be related to the title of the book, but in relation to your background, well, how did you get into all that?
It's funny because people always say, "Man, you have experience in everything," and it's really
Right,
because when
right.
I, well, because when I was younger, I didn't see any borders. So if I wanted to try something, I just tried it. I was riding
Mm.
my bike through a strip mall when I was 14 years old, and there was a help wanted sign,
Mm-hmm.
and I just stopped in and said, "Hey, I want some money, right? I want to get a job." And
Right.
they were old school boiler room. We were asking people for donations to the Police Athletic
Mm-hmm.
League and Fraternal Order of Police. We were one of those organizations that are now illegal, but we were only giving 2 or 3% of what we collected to the
Uh-huh.
organizations we were collecting for, and the remaining 97, 98% was used for operating expenses. They hired
Mm.
kids, right, and they paid us more than McDonald's or your local grocery store, but
Right.
really taught us some sales fundamentals and how to deepen our voice and sound like we were older and stuff like that. And I learned a
Right.
lot about sales, and I really got addicted to commissions at a very
Mm-hmm.
young age. In fact, the Attorney General of Ohio shut us down twice while I was there for having
Uh-huh.
underage kids work there. So, these guys were super, super boiler room type organization, but I loved it
Whoa.
and really got addicted to that environment. And so I was always kind of looking for a rush. I think when
Mm-hmm.
I was
Mm-hmm.
younger and trying to find what I wanted to do. I went to school because I was a teenage father and I had dropped out of college the first time around and really was going down the wrong path. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
what do I want to do? So I wanted to coach, right? I always have a love for sports. And so I said, well, let's become a teacher and then we can coach at the high school level. So I went to school, got my
Mm-hmm.
degree, became a teacher, and it really worked out because I was teaching, but then I found out I don't like to work when I know what my check is going to be every Friday, right? There weren't any
Mm-hmm.
coaching jobs available anyway, so really I was teaching to coach, but now I'm just teaching and not coaching because there wasn't a coaching position open. Very
Mm-hmm.
impatient, so I decided to jump out of teaching. I still volunteer with the youth. I'm the president of our local youth club in Hilliard, Ohio, which is a suburb of Columbus, and I
Mm-hmm.
also do work with Big Brothers Big Sisters. But at that time, it was like, I want to help kids out. I have that sort of mental need to help kids out and make sure they're on the right path, but I need to make some money. And so I got into the
Mm-hmm.
mortgage business and found a way to make some what I call big boy money back in the early 2000s. And then what happened was the mortgage market crashed, and all of a sudden,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, what do I do now, right? So,
Right, right.
you see other opportunities and you just say, hey, I think I can do that, and you do it. So insurance was one of those things. Now I'm a serial entrepreneur, so I do own an insurance agency. I also own a marketing firm, which is the sixth fastest growing company in the Columbus, Ohio region, which is an award that we just got this year. We're also the number one best place to work in Columbus, Ohio, which is an award that we got this year. Last year we were number three on that list. So Richardson Marketing Group is doing phenomenal things on the business side. I'm in the coffee business. I have Black Beans by Deryck Richardson, which is a coffee store. We have a kiosk at a local mall here, and then we're also online. I'm an author and
Mm-hmm.
a speaker. I volunteer in my community, so it's one of those things that when you talk about the book and go play, I literally mean just go play. You know what I mean? When we are
Right,
kids and mom is cooking dinner and she says, "Hey, go play," she doesn't say go play with Legos. She doesn't say go
right.
knock on Johnny's door. She doesn't say go shoot hoops in the driveway. She just says
Yeah.
go play, right? And we learn to figure that out as kids, and as adults. I think that we don't do that often enough, and I've just
Mm-hmm.
always done it. So it's time for me to go play. What do I want to do? Do I want to be an insurance agent? Cool. Do I want to open a coffee shop? Cool. Do I want to be an author? Cool. I just see it, say I want to do it, and then I just do it.
Right. Okay. Okay. Got that. All right. So I'll get back into the topic of go play later. But I mean, first off, I mean, you're an entrepreneur and you you've got your own company or you've got several businesses. This essentially means you are a leader who needs to motivate others. Were you always like this?
I was, it's one of those things that where I was always the leader in my pack, even growing up.
Mm.
My friends, I think, leaned on me when I was younger for advice. I was the
Hmm.
first to drive out of our group. You know what I mean? The first to get
Right.
a job out of our group. Um, it was just one of those things to where, yes, I've always led sort of my pack. And then because I had sales experience so young, I was a sales manager at 20 years old. I took a
Hmm.
job after I left Telcom, which was the donation place. I took a job just setting appointments. I was an appointment setter, but they quickly saw that I had this sort of knack for leadership, and I knew what I was doing already, even though I was 20.
Hmm.
And so I was promoted to manager, and it was weird because I was managing adults, quote unquote adults, right? I'm 20, so
Hmm.
I'm an
Hmm.
adult, but I had 45 and 50-year-olds that were on my team that I was leading, and so I have always been a natural born leader, and I really feel
Mm.
comfortable in the role.
All right, great. Okay. All right, so let's go back to go play. I mean, as you mentioned, the statement is like, like a mom says, while she's fixing dinner, go out and play, go play. What is the significance of this statement to kids, and how do I put this? How does it, why does it differ in impact from, say, a child compared to, say, an adult?
You know, when we're kids, I just don't think we overthink things. You know,
Uh-huh.
we haven't had that life experience. We haven't had people judge us yet for what we try to do. We don't have
Mm-hmm.
people that have expectations for what we're supposed to do. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so we just are ourselves, and we see an opportunity, and if we like it, then we jump on it, right? If I like
Mm-hmm.
Johnny, then I become friends with Johnny. If I don't like Jimmy, then Jimmy is not my friend, right? And
Right.
as adults, I think what happens is we just overthink everything, and we do what we think we're supposed to do. And I think what
Uh-huh.
we do what society thinks we should do, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the difference. It's one of the things that separates go-getters in this world from people who maybe are not go-getters. It's because the go-getters don't really care what people think, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm an African American that grew up in a white suburb, right? And so what
Mm-hmm.
happens
Right.
is I learned a lot about grunge music from my friends, and I
Mm-hmm.
learned a lot about Nirvana and Metallica. And it was so
Mm-hmm.
funny when I would go to some of the urban neighborhoods where I had family, and I would play these songs. They're like, "Why are you playing this quote unquote white music?" And I'm like,
Mm.
I like it, man. Like you're not bobbing your head to Nirvana right now. Like Kurt Cobain is dope. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
I've always
Right,
had
right.
sort of that sense just to say, "Hey, man, I like it. I don't really care what you think, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
what I'm going to do. I'm going to be me." And there are people out there like that. Don't get me wrong, but the vast majority of people, in my experience, are so concerned with what's going on around them. What do people think? What are people going to say? Blah 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 blah
Mm-hmm.
blah. And I just don't care.
Mm-hmm. Right, okay. And I mean, it's your attitude is very, as you mentioned, it's very different from a lot of the attitude of a lot of adults. I mean, a lot of people, let's face it, they do care. Um, so what are you mentioned? Now you mentioned some of these things, but what, in your opinion, what are some of the most important blocks that keep adults from just going out and playing?
Probably failure, probably stress, probably
Uh-huh.
some mental health, depression or anxieties that have
Uh-huh.
stemmed from some of those failures. Nobody likes to get knocked down, and so when you get knocked down doing one thing, typically you stop doing it because it hurts. You know what I mean? Um,
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you get knocked down and you're really determined to succeed at it, you're just going to get back up. I know it sounds cliche, right? But if you get knocked down
Mm-hmm.
9 times, if you get up 10 times, you're winning. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that some of the failures and um, some of the people in our lives who have also failed, so they don't have a lot of faith in you. There is,
Mm-hmm.
Luke 4:24 in the Bible says, "No man is a prophet in his own land." Right, and that's
Mm-hmm.
that's key. And what that means is that your circle, your people, are not going to allow you to be a prophet or to ascend. It's crab
Mm-hmm.
mentality sometimes in your own circle. Sometimes when you feel that you are different, and I feel that I am different. I feel that I am different from most of my normal circle, right? I have tried
Mhm.
to bring people from my circle, my family, my cousins. I have tried to bring them along my business ride, and they all say, no,
Mhm.
that's not going to work. I'm not going to try it. And as I
Mhm.
ascend, I don't have time to carry them with me, and I don't have time to turn around and put my hand down to pick them up, right? You got to keep up with me. And if you're not keeping up with me, then I'm going to leave you, right? I'm faster than you when it comes to ascension.
Mhm.
And I feel that I'm different in that manner. And so I think that sometimes people do allow their family to drag them back down that ladder of ascent, or if they fall,
Mm.
there's a lot of "I told you it wouldn't work. I told you so's,"
Right,
right? That
right,
happen.
right. Told you so.
Yeah, I've failed a million times, and when people say "I told you so," I say, "Awesome, I'm getting back up and I'm going again." You know what I mean?
Right,
And I think
right.
that's really the key to doing what you want to do, and it's just don't allow other people to influence your decisions or your actions. Right? They're not doing it. If they
Mhm.
don't want to do it, that's fine, but they're not
Mhm.
you. You are the only person who is you in this world.
Mhm.
So you have to do what's best for you and what you're dedicated to, and if you continue to do that, I think that you can only see success. Doesn't mean you won't fail. I've failed a million times. Won't mean
Mhm.
doesn't mean you won't be broke. I've been broke before. Doesn't mean that you're not
Mhm.
going to have failed relationships. I've had to have best friends really cut off from my day-to-day activity because they were so negative. They were a negative influence. People who have been friends
Mhm.
with me since the seventh grade, I don't talk to on a regular basis because they are negative people. They say
Mhm.
I get lucky. Deryck always gets so lucky.
Mhm.
How's he get lucky? Well, I get lucky because
Mhm.
I fall all the time, and I get hurt all the time, and I get bruised all the
Mhm.
time. And you know what? If
Mhm.
if luck means I get back up again, then yes, I am lucky, right?
Mhm.
But I,
Right.
luck is where hard work meets opportunity, and I'm going to continue to be lucky because I'm going to continue to put in the hard work. And when you put in hard work and you accept the fact that you're willing to take opportunities and you're willing to attack opportunities, it's very hard to fail. So.
Right. Okay. All right. Great. Okay. So the book, Go Play. I mean, the subtitle here is the ultimate roadmap to winning the game of life. So I have to ask, what is it in this book that enables such a roadmap, someone to get this kind of roadmap to winning the game of life?
You know, so much of it is mindset, and again, it sounds cliche. A lot of the things that I talk about, they're not new concepts. Zig
Uh huh.
Ziglar has influenced the book. Maxwell has influenced the book. So none of this
Mm-hmm.
stuff is, brand new concepts. It's all mindset. And if you've read one
Right.
personal development book, you've read another one. I think that the twist,
Mm-hmm.
though, on literally taking us back to our childhood and putting us back in a mindset of what we did when we were 7 and mom said go play, and just putting
All
you
right.
back in that free state of mindset is the difference. And then also the book is mixed with my story, and so you get the story of somebody who has lived his life this way, who has
Right.
failed, who has gotten
Mm-hmm.
back up, and who is
Mm-hmm.
continuing to ascend. The game of life is not won because we're all going to die, but if you have to continue to win, right? You have to continue to go through
Right.
level to level to level like a video game. And if you're
Mm.
doing that consistently and if you're continuously improving, then you're winning. Right? It doesn't mean that you're a
Mm.
millionaire. It doesn't mean anything other than you are better today than you were yesterday, and you'll be better tomorrow than you are today. It means you're continuously improving. And so that's really
Mm.
the message of the book, but doing it in a twist of, again, just being a kid and really knowing that you don't have to listen to people. You don't have to, fail when people say you're going to fail. You can actually separate yourself from that and go play however you want to play, right? And
Mm.
so that's the biggest thing. It's also a short read, and I did that on purpose. I had about 300 pages of content, and I've split that up into 3 books. The second one, which is It's Time to Eat, will be coming out in March. And what's
Okay.
funny is that now that we've gone to play, now it's time to eat. So we're going to talk about what happens when you live a life where you just go play. But I split the
Mm.
series up into 3 rather than one 300-page book because I wanted people to grasp it and to be able to
Mm.
finish it in a couple days, right? And not have
Mm.
be one of those books where they're on chapter 7 and then it goes back onto the bookshelf and they don't pick it back up. And so another
Right.
good thing about the book is, it's just over 100 pages. If you wanted to, you could read it straight through in probably 5 hours. So, I mean, it's that short, that
Mm.
quick of a read, but it's packed with powerful information. It keeps you wanting more and waiting for the next one to come out, which will be out next year. So,
Right. Okay. Okay. Now, you did mention that some of these, a lot of the stuff, I mean, I think you did mention that practically all of the concepts in this book, they've been covered by other people before. I think you mentioned Zig Ziglar. So what is it in this book, that makes it a different read, that makes someone want to pick this up, that makes someone want to read it?
Well, like I said, the twist is going back to childhood, which we all can relate to because we all were kids at one point. We all heard
Mm.
mom or dad say "go play" at one point, right? So we
All
can
right,
relate.
right, right.
And again, my situation is so unique because I have been up and down and all around, and I think most people have been up and down and all around. So people can
Mm.
really relate to to the book. The other thing is that we have stories throughout the book, short stories and metaphors throughout the book that really make it an enjoyable read. So it's not a dry read. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very
Mm-hmm.
enjoyable and quick read. So it's packed with entertainment. It's packed with stories. It's packed with messages behind those stories. But the difference is that we're not just going to preach and point our finger at you. We're going to show you how relevant the content is by intertwining stories and that are real, and some of them are just about two frogs racing up a building who are blind, and so some sort of Aesop fable type stories as well.
Okay. Aesop type. Okay, all right. So this is really a mix of stories then. Okay,
There's a
interesting.
lot of stories in there. Yeah, it's not a story book, but there's a lot of stories in there to help back up the content for sure.
Right, right. Okay. Is there, so I'm just asking, is there any particular story that, sticks out in your mind, or, something that's maybe your favorite?
Yeah, the lumberjack is certainly my favorite of the stories, and I've
Uh-huh.
used it. I've used this story in sales management for years, for probably 20 years now. And
Mm.
I'll just give you the quick synopsis. There's a lumberjack who was retired. He was the best at his business. He was the LeBron James of chopping down trees, and he
Right.
retires and he's sitting at home and he's bored, and he says, "Man, I can't do this. I can't sit on my porch and sip lemonade for the rest of my life. I'm going to go back to the timber
Right.
mill and get back to work." He goes to the manager, says, "Hey, man, I want to come out of retirement. I promise you, you're not doing me any favors. I'm still going to come out here and outwork all of the younger lumberjacks that are out here." And so the manager says,
Mm.
"Of course, you can come back, and we'll get you back up and running." And so most of the lumberjacks are going to bring in about 10 trees a day. I mean, that's on average, but
Mm-hmm.
your top lumberjacks are chopping down 12 to 13 trees a day. And on the first
Mm-hmm.
day, the lumberjack comes and he brings in 15 trees. He's in first place, and
Mm-hmm.
he says, "I told you, I still got it." And the next day, he brings
Mm-hmm.
in 15, but then it goes down to 14, and eventually,
Mm-hmm.
after a couple of weeks, he's middle of the pack. He's bringing in 10 or 11 trees, and he goes to
Mm-hmm.
his manager and says, "Man, I promise you, I'm not taking advantage of this situation. I am working my tail off. I'm not sure what's happening, but I will be
Mm-hmm.
back to number one very soon. I'm dedicated to being number one." And the manager
Mm-hmm.
just looks him in his eye and he says, "I see you're chopping down a lot of trees, but when is the last time you sharpened your axe?" And the lumberjack says,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't sharpened my axe." And the manager says, "Go sharpen your axe and see what happens." And so often we get caught up in these ruts that we're in, or routines that we're in. Maybe it's not even a negative
Mm-hmm.
rut, but these routines that we're in. And it just reminds us
Mm-hmm.
that we have to continue to learn and progress, and again, continuously improve. We have to continue to sharpen our axes every single day if we want to keep going to the next level. I mean, LeBron James is the best basketball player on the face of the planet, in my opinion, but he has a coach and he's in the gym every single day. He can't stop practicing if he wants to continue
Mm-hmm.
to be the best, right? And that's the same with any
Right.
athlete or businessman. So I love that story because it just reminds you can work as hard as you want, but if you're not learning, if you're not sharpening your axe, you're not going to get very far very fast.
Right, right. Okay. And all right. So people. In addition to those kinds of stories, what story can you maybe share with our listeners to get a feel for what it's like for you when you go and play?
I talk a lot about my own failures in the book.
Uh-huh.
Um, so
Okay.
my office is split. It is um, Richardson Marketing Group is on one side, which is our marketing firm, and then the other side is Freedom Direct, which is our insurance agency. But if you
Okay.
look throughout this entire office, what you're going to see is Freedom Direct all over the walls. There's not even one logo of Richardson Marketing Group. And the reason for that is because we opened this office with the intent of just being an insurance agency. And we
Mm-hmm.
bought all the nice equipment, ping pong tables, flat screen TVs, sit to stand desks. I mean, the office is aesthetically pleasing for recruiting purposes. So we wanted people to come in and really feel at home in this environment. It's very much a basement or locker room or man cave type office space, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
but we failed. Our problem was we were worried about the wrong thing. We were worried about what people were going to think when they walked into our office, right? We should have
Mm-hmm.
gotten
Mm-hmm.
those fold-up tables that Grandma had at Thanksgiving that she pulled out of the garage with some metal chairs, right? But we didn't
Right,
do
right.
that. What we did was we made it look so pretty. So we failed,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden we looked up, and it was about 6 months in, and we had very little revenue, and we were like,
Mm-hmm.
man, we're about to be out of business after 6 months. We spent all of our money, all of our startup money is
Right,
gone, and we don't have any
right.
revenue coming in. People would come in and literally, watch TV and play the Wii. We made it so comfortable that work was second nature. So what I did
Mm-hmm.
was I said, listen, I know how to sell leads, and here's what we're going to do. We're moving to straight commission, and these guys are going to sell leads, which was how Richardson Marketing Group was born. We're now a full service marketing agency. We do lead generation, telemarketing, digital marketing, social media marketing, etc. But we were
Mm-hmm.
born by literally selling the leads that we had for our insurance agents. And we just said,
Mm-hmm.
hey, these guys aren't working these leads. Let's go find somebody who wants them and let's go sell them. And so we quickly
Mm-hmm.
turned this office space into a money generating space versus staying true to the insurance agency, right? So today
Mm-hmm.
it's a little different because
Mm-hmm.
both businesses are successful. And again, Richardson Marketing Group is the sixth fastest growing company in the Columbus, Ohio region. So both it
Mm-hmm.
worked out because both businesses are flourishing right now. But back
Mm-hmm.
then, we had to switch focus pretty quickly and say, hey, I'm not very good at basketball. Let me go try football, right? Or I'm not very good
Mm-hmm.
at Legos. Let me go try building blocks, right? And
Right,
that's
right,
what we did.
right.
We shifted gears, we shifted focus, we shifted attention to bring in some revenue to really save us from the failures that we had made, and it worked out. We look up and we look at that story. That story's in the book as well, but we look up and we look at that story like, man, that was an interesting time frame. We could have literally been out of business in 6 months if we weren't willing to really pivot and change directions.
Right. Okay, so in today's world, I mean, this is like a swift pivot and, just essentially just go playing and having fun. How important is doing all this in today's world, be it in business or in one's own personal life?
Well, I think 2020 is the example of why people need to be able to go play. We have not
Uh-huh.
had to think on our toes this quickly in my lifetime as a society, right? You look at the bars
Mm.
and restaurants that were shutting down. How could they keep their businesses open? Some of them haven't, but some of them
Right.
have. They've had to pivot to outdoor seating. They've had to pivot to delivery services, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you are making decisions as a business owner that typically you would be making a quarter or 2 quarters ahead of time. When we got
Uh-huh.
that we were shutting down office space in Ohio, I was actually on vacation. My mother turned 75 on March 15th. So on March 14th,
Mm-hmm.
we had a surprise party for her. On March 15th, I took my wife on vacation, and on March 16th, they shut down bars and restaurants and made a stay-at-home order in Ohio. And so I
Mm-hmm.
literally had to pause my vacation with my wife, to call the office and say, "Hey guys, we're going home." Have my tech team get everybody up and running from home to make sure that they had their VoIP services and everything was able to work from home. And that was a decision
Right.
that I would have never made in a 24-hour period, right? And so,
Hmm.
so we're having to do that. But also, people are having to do that. Kids were back home from school. Now, people couldn't go to work or they had to find childcare. But then now you're sort of scared of childcare because what if the childcare provider has COVID, right? What do you do? How do you
Right.
pivot? If your job doesn't allow you to work from home, if you're an essential worker, what are you doing in your household to make sure that your house doesn't crumble? Right?
Right.
So we haven't had 2020 really is just the perfect example of why it's so important to make sure that we can think on our toes and really be witty in life. And I think it's a good practice for years to come.
Right. Those are very interesting insights. Things have changed so quickly this year. All right. So in the last minute or so of this interview, Deryck, this very interesting talk. Are there any words of wisdom you'd like to share, maybe to inspire listeners?
Yeah, if you have an idea, just go act on it. I mean, how many times have we said, "I thought of that,"
Mm-hmm.
or you have an idea and you say, "This is such a great idea," and then you just never act on it? Just act on it. I mean, what's the worst that can happen, right? The worst that can happen is that the idea maybe not be as good as you thought it was, but at least you've acted on it and you've gained a learning experience. You've gained some
Mm-hmm.
wisdom and some knowledge from
Right.
just really trusting your gut. And so, if you have an idea, if you have an opportunity, just act on it. Just give it a shot. Don't shortchange yourself.
Right. Okay. Well, definitely. I mean, this is like learning, essentially learning from failing, just having fun.
That's right. Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Great. Okay. All right then. So in closing, then our guest is Deryck Richardson. His book is Go Play: The Ultimate Roadmap to Winning the Game of Life, which you can find on Amazon. So Deryck, thank you very much for being Author Story. It was a lot of fun being able to speak with you today.
Thank you for having me. I've had a blast. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. All right, everyone, go check out Go Play, and while you're at it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button to check out on all the people and stories that we'll cover in the future. So catch you guys next time on Author Story, the home of authors and people with stories that matter.